don't know, Henry, you want to go first or?
Yeah, I'll go first. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Nice. Pandemic's been pretty good. I have not been, if you just want to talk like musically and specifically Naked Giants musically, I'm really missing the drum kit. I think this weekend I was like, oh, I miss playing drums. So I think this week, Gianni, if I might swing into the studio if you go there. I don't know how often you go there, but I'd love to swing by too.
Yeah, not very often at all.
Oh, really? Nice. Anyway, drums. But in the good news is that I've been teaching guitar and piano, and it's weird. It's not like I've gotten faster at shredding, but with both instruments, my ability to improvise and write new things just out of like, what's the word? Not ingenuity, but you're just like, oh, that I should go there next.
Like intuition?
Intuition, yeah. My intuition's just like much more, it's just better. It's just more refined. So musically, that's been really cool. Like I'm just more comfortable with piano scales and piano shapes, and I'm more comfortable with guitar shapes and scales. And yeah, I don't know. Staying fit, growing my hair out, listening to some music. You know who's great? Anemone. The Montreal
Anemone?
band.
Yeah, totally.
Wait, who is?
They're called
Yeah, well, their name is Anemone, but since they're like French Canadians, they say Anemone.
Anemone.
That was actually a lot of questions I was going to ask you guys, because I know that you have something in the works.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if the timeline is, different now, but definitely have a lot of questions on like how that's coming and like if it's also a different vibe than the last one and stuff.
Yeah. Should we just jump right into that?
Yeah, if you want to do that, or do the update if you had anything. But
No, that's good.
Whatever.
Yeah. We so we recorded a new album in November or October?
November.
Which feels like years ago now, which is weird. But we recorded it in Portland with this guy Chris Funk, who is in the band The Decemberists, which I like. It's always funny saying that because it's like I feel like they're one of those bands that like people know of, but like I personally had never really listened to them before we like started working with him.
I could not name a Decemberist song personally.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Which is like I think that's the ideal spot to be at with the producer, is like to not be like a super fan, but like have that kind of like respect.
Yeah.
But we did listen to their most recent album I remember listening to it on the way down to Portland to record. Or like on the way from a show or something like that. Anyway, so we recorded it in November, and then we kind of like sat on the recordings for a while and didn't have them mixed until like end of January, early February. And then now we're just wrapping up the like album art and all that jazz for it, which our friend Danae is doing. She's here in Seattle. And this is her first foray into album art creation, which is something that she's really wanted to get into for a while. So it's like, it's cool to like bring that to fruition too. But yeah, I guess to speak on like if it's a different vibe or like how it fits into the catalog, it's kind of like a refining of our shtick, I guess. Our last album, SLUFF, was like, well, it was our first album, our first like big recording experience. We had just gotten signed with the record label.
Mhm.
And it was just kind of like a bunch of songs that we had like collected over the years of being in a band. And so I feel like that album wasn't really like focused in any way. It was just like, all right, let's like do everything that we can do in 2 weeks and see how it turns out. And I feel like this album, especially after like touring a lot for years and just like growing as young adults now, we really sat down and were like, okay, now we can like write something and like make it cohesive, and kind of like funnel our thoughts in a more directed way. Whereas like SLUFF had a lot of like just kind of off the cuff nonsense. I feel like this album, there's still like that unpredictability, but like we kind of thought about what we wanted to say more. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's really interesting because yeah, SLUFF has like a lot of changes, especially like, you have SLUFF the song and then you have like Shredded Again, very distinct different vibes. And so is the new album, is it more like narratively, conceptually connected, or also like the sound connected as more cohesive, or are both of them just a little more concise now?
Yeah, it's kind of, I'd say it's in the more conceptually connected way, because there still is like a lot of kind of like genre exploration, and I'm not sure like how much of the details we're like allowed to talk about quite yet. But part of the concept of it was like in a almost like Sergeant Peppersy way, having each song be a little kind of vignette that goes into a different style, but all revolving around the same themes of kind of facing personal anxiety and like diving into your darker spots in order to grow and like find the lighter spots. And that alone manifests in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people, and even within the same person. So naturally, I feel like analyzing that concept through a bunch of different styles and sounds kind of works with the theme,
Oh, I was just gonna say something that I recently kind of. It's funny, you have these songs, but then they like as you grow, as life goes on, you kind of start thinking of them in different ways. And like I was thinking about like how if you like just like with drugs or something, like how you can approach your relationship with substance in a way to where it can be it doesn't have to cause anxiety and it doesn't have to rule your life, but it can just be a part of existing and a part of your life that you may or may not enjoy. And it's like, now I'm rambling. I had a thought and I was like, this is good. But what Gianni said about just the facing the darkness and then realizing that there's just so much light around that darkness, just like your shadow, because that darkness exists, but only because there's so much light that is creation, sun and, light sources. It's like that all makes something that's, what's the word? Stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
That sounds, I mean, it probably was, because you recorded it, around November, you probably weren't thinking about a global pandemic at all. But do you think that this could possibly, influence the interpretation of your, the album's message at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I don't know, as with kind of all of our music, there's this kind of grain of like, I don't know, anxiousness, or I don't know what the word is, franticness, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like in our live sets too, there's this kind of like all over the place mentality. Um, and I feel like that, coupled with these themes of like darkness and light and anxiety and all that, I mean, yeah, those are totally all things that are being brought up by this global moment.
Totally. As far as, because you mentioned, when you're writing about this, and I was wondering how that works in the band, the dynamics of the band. Like, do you all like collaboratively like write lyrics for songs, or is it more just one person and then the others give input?
Yeah, it's kind of developed into a couple different like types of songs. We all individually do write our own stuff, and so we'll have stuff that's like, I'll write a song and I'll be like, oh, this will be good for Naked Giants, or I'll write a song that's like, this wouldn't be good for Naked Giants, I'll keep this for myself. But when we come up with any sort of idea, whether it's just a riff or if it's a complete song with lyrics and everything, then we'll bring it to the band and just kind of like jam it out, see what sticks. Because there's certain like flavors, like sonic flavors, that work better with the three of us than others. And yeah, I guess like from there, structurally, usually it's either between Grant or myself to like kind of take the lyrical and vocal lead on a song. A lot of the times we'll switch off from like verse to verse. Like on the song SLUFF, I sing the first verse and he does the second verse, and we never really like talk about where the lyrics are going in that situation, but like just by like listening and singing it and jamming, we kind of like find a common ground. There are a couple songs like that on the new album where it's like I distinctly remember never talking about what the song is about, but always listening to each other and like having our own interpretations of what each other are thinking. I feel like that's an interesting way to like keep it on this sort of unconscious level, without like overthinking it too much. And this album is sort of a first. So Henry sang a lot on the last album, like in backgrounds and stuff. And he had a whole like section of shredded again. But this album is, I'm so excited, is the first one with a whole Henry song. That's just like, because usually, we'll all work on songs together, but like, I feel like Grant or myself are like the main vocalists and songwriters, but I'm so excited for Henry to have his time in the spotlight,
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to the small contingency of people that are like track 13, or track 12 or whatever. That should be pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes. My songs are a bit more acoustic song, singer-songwriter-y, as you can tell.
Yeah, I feel like that, I don't know, that speaks to the concept too, is like we have these three distinct songwriting approaches and attitudes. And I feel like we went into the sessions for this album knowing that like, okay, there are going to be some songs where like Henry takes the lead, Grant takes the lead, Gianni takes the lead, and then there are going to be some songs where it's like, this is distinctly all of us working together. And I think that's there's a lot of different levels and depth in that,
Yeah, totally. I was reading a little bit about too, speaking of like Henry's moment to shine, about some of the like songs you've written that are a little more like, I don't know, pop centric, like in that genre, which seems a little, disjoint from the genres you're exploring. So I was wondering if you were planning to explore that genre on the new album, or if not the new album, maybe the future.
Right. I mean, we definitely like we had one song that was like written for specifically for an advertisement that was looking to have they wanted that song by Portugal the Man that's like just a kiss me, but they didn't want to pay for that song, so they were like putting out the feelers to have bands write songs in that vein. And so we wrote one, and it was all right. It sounded a lot like that Portugal the Man song, but we ended up recording it, and that song is not on the album. It just didn't really it didn't gel with the rest of it. That's like the closest we've gotten to being like, let's make something that is like decidedly in the pop medium, you know. Aside from that,
Yeah.
there's I don't know, pop is such a weird concept to explore, because I mean, of course, like anything we write is kind of like within the popular song medium. I feel it's like verse chorus, little catchy melody, but I feel like pop these days is kind of a different thing. It's much more about the sound and the groove, and like the kind of and the electronic elements, like I don't know, Ariana Grande or Demi Lovato or whatever. That said, I think we did kind of access a little bit of that on this album, aside from the one song that we recorded that will not make it on the album. There's some disco dance rock. There's some disco dance rock for sure.
Hi.
Oh, hey, Grant.
Sorry I'm so late. I had to teach a piano lesson. I totally spaced.
No worries.
And Gianni saved his head, which is
Yeah.
totally mind-blowing, mind-boggling.
Speaking of pop and teaching lessons, I've been teaching one of my students a lot of Post Malone songs. And that's an interesting section of pop, because I kind of assumed he was like a trap. I'm feeling like a rock star, you know, like that, like. But he actually has like a lot of songs that have like major 7 chords and are kind of like folky with 808s, which is pretty cool. So I was like, oh, okay. But you know, at the same time, it's like, I want to listen to AC/DC though. You know?
Yeah, I guess
too.
Right, yeah, and I guess that's where it's like, you know, rock music is not pop anymore, right? It was, and like a lot of the bands that we're influenced by were super huge pop bands, like all the way up until like the Strokes, you know.
Yeah.
Like rock was like steadily at the top of the charts, but now we're at this moment where it's like the landscape is so much more different,
Right.
and so anything we do as a rock band is like nullified from the pop sphere, which is fine. Like, and I think it's cool to like be aware of that and maybe incorporate some of those elements. But I wouldn't say, I guess to speak to that, I would not say we're going in the Post Malone direction at all.
No,
Yeah, totally. And I think it is kind of reflective in the couple music videos you have out too. Like they're a little like, I don't know, reflective of the genres you explore. And I heard, I think it was an old interview about possibly exploring a visual album for the newest album. I was wondering if you guys were still considering that idea, because I found it interesting if you guys were.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot more like kind of thematic music video ideas. I think we got a little bit sidetracked in terms of like creating a visual world for it, especially now that we can't like physically interact and like work together enough, which is a bummer. for sure. But yeah, I mean, it could be in the works. I feel like now the priority is like making sure we can still do the bare minimum, you know what I mean? Which is like release a couple singles, have music videos for those, and like make sure that people know we put an album out, you know, without being able to like tour it or anything, which is really weird.
Yeah.
I think this album definitely has a much more distinct relationship between the visuals just in general, I feel like, and the music though. Like our last album was kind of just a mishmash. This one's more like it feels like, I think that's why I guess we're happy with the art, which we obviously can't show you, but it's kind of like, in general, the visuals, I don't know, it's just a visual album.
Mm-hmm.
More visual in my mind, not literally like we made our visuals for every song, but feels visual.
Yeah, maybe a little more aestheticized.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how that is working. I mean, obviously, like, you know, staying safe, staying inside is like number one, but as far as getting the bare minimum done, what have you guys been doing? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, for the artwork has been easy. As I said, our friend Danae is doing it, and so we can just send it back and forth. Right now, like, since we won't be able to start touring the album. It's supposed to be coming out at the end of summer, but it looks like concerts and whatnot are not going to happen until at least early next year. So we've been talking with our manager about like other ways to keep people interested, and we haven't like acted upon any of those yet, but like things in the works are music videos that we can do not like in the same place, you know, maybe doing like a Zoom music video or something like that. We've got a bunch of material assembled for a podcast, which I think would be really fun. I don't know what the market is for like band podcasts, but you know, maybe we can make that leap. I feel like that would be some good content. Video lessons and like instructional things like Patreon. That's been kind of like in the back of our minds as not only another way to like stay engaged and keep people's attention, but also like now that our touring income is gone until next year, like having something like a Patreon that's like a monthly subscription thing that could be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and up until all of this stuff, we've been doing these weekly live streams on Instagram, which have been super fun. And I feel like it's a win-win because it keeps people engaged with the music when we're not able to play shows. And also like, it's just nice to have something to look forward to every week. And I know a lot of people do depend on shows for their like social engagement and just to like keep them sane, you know what I mean? And so I feel like the live streams are a good alternative to that when you can't be in person.
Yeah, the sense of community that you get with a show, I'm really like, at first I was like, whatever, because like I don't go out to shows that much, but after not going out for shows for like 2 months already, I'm even just like, wow, you know, there's a certain like, at least in Seattle, I mean, in every city or town or whatever, you know, you're going to run into somebody you know at a show if you go out to shows often. Like there's always one familiar face at least. And then, so that sense of community, like I see it on the Instagram lives, which is funny. Like certain people are like internet friends because they're all like within the music realm of like Naked Giants. Like they follow us, you know, which is a weird social, what's the word? Social media. Social media. Yeah. Media. I got social distancing in my head, but it's social media. You know how things used to be. Yeah. But
Yeah, I was thinking that we honestly have like pretty positive fans in general. I was thinking about that, how like everything's pretty positive generally. There's like not a lot of people like these guys suck, or everyone's kind of positive and nice to each other too on the live chats, except for like the one guy who said something. Never mind, I can't say it. Just on my live stream the other day, there was this one guy who said something really weird, but it wasn't that weird. I think he was joking. You know, people are funny, but no one's like being malicious on these things. So it's cool to have positive fans who are like generally nice, supportive.
No trolls.
Yeah. No time for trolls.
Yeah, it's got to be weird though, because I know that like being at your shows, a lot of it is just like pure like chaos, gotta go, like energy. And you guys talk a lot about like just wanting to make people dance, just wanting to make people like, you know, but that translates different, I think, with, you know, it can be live on social media, but that's not, you know, the same. And I was wondering if that's like affected, I don't know, your performance or your creativity or your process like right now, if that's like benefiting or hindering it in any way.
Yeah, it's definitely like given me another perspective on like how our performance and our music could go, almost in like a tiny desk way. I feel like that style, that energy is a kind of movement in the arts scene, is just kind of like stripped down, easy to consume live set and performance, and that's never been something that we've been able to try until now, because we've always been like on a stage, usually opening up for some band, so we have to like make as big of an impression as possible. But I feel like, I mean, out of all the bad stuff to come out of this pandemic, like at least now it's like making us take on a few different perspectives on like directions we could take the music, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's really interesting to start doing these. We've been doing like semi-acoustic individual performances on our live streams, and while we've had a few sort of acoustic dabbles in the past, I think that could be an interesting direction to go, is something just a little more like laid back, relaxing, not so raucous and in your face.
Yeah. What's that King Gizzard album? Is it called Oddments, or am I thinking of a completely different band?
Their acoustic one?
Yeah, with the
the paper mache dream balloon.
Yeah.
We need a dream balloon.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like just like super monkey ball, like on the monitor, and then we just like, you know.
Yeah.
With the purpose of it, you know, like just being easy listening.
Definitely.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
We all definitely have a lot of acoustic material that we could kind of pick from to just assemble one.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Totally.
I foresee many releases.
Yeah. I guess that's the other thing about this time is like now we have time to like, we record a lot of our practices and jams, whether it's through a computer or just like on the iPhone voice memos. And so now we've had a lot of time to reflect on our jams and like see all that material. That's another thing we've been talking about, is like our next album project or EP project, which is kind of weird considering our next album hasn't come out yet. But like we have this time now, and so we're kind of like compiling, I guess, vibes for a future project. And so yeah, we have like this kind of chill acoustic thing, but we've also got a bunch of like song fragments in this like 80s ZZ Top disco rock kind of thing, which is kind of funny. And then we've got like a bunch of jams that are what? You have something to say?
Yeah. I don't know if you were about to bring up Neptune Road Club.
That was that. Yeah.
Right. So I just thought of another portion of that is if they go to a space bar, literally like a road bar in
Right.
in space, and the house band playing is called Bazookoids.
That's great. Yeah. I guess Olivia, to bring you up to speed on that. Yeah. These ZZ Top-esque riffs and jams we've been jamming on. We're leaning on it being a project called Neptune Road Club, and it's like a biker gang in space, kind of going on this space journey, and yeah, they just listen to with banging riffs, kind of stopping off at different moons and planets. That's that idea.
Yeah.
I like it. That's cool. And also thank you, because I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. When it's the Zoom meetings, I realize, because it's like also a nice time to just like, oh, everybody's here. Well, hey, I just had this one idea, so I'm sorry.
No, it's interesting. It just sounds like you're talking another language for a hot second. It's like a weird conceptual question that I don't know if you have an answer to, but in a couple of articles and things, you guys have talked about like wanting to find a purpose for your band, like why should your voice, be the ones that are standing out? And you've talked a lot about, issues that you've wanted to, give a platform to, because you guys are on a stage and you have a microphone. So I was wondering, in this time of reflection, like you were talking about, if you guys have, I don't know, thought about that, if that's developed or stayed the same, or if COVID specifically has changed your thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's like an ongoing kind of developing process, is like simultaneously like finding your footing in this like realm of having a voice and like figuring out what to say. And I think that's another thing that we kind of tackle conceptually and lyrically on the album, is like that exact conundrum. But I guess to speak on like specifically now, it's like now that people can't gather in person, I feel like there's a heightened importance of social media presence, and that comes like all the way down to like all these like petitions and like mutual aid funds that are going around. It's like you could sit on your couch all day and just like help people virtually, which is really strange. And so that's something that I've picked up on, is like, all right, we have like a wide base of people who know our music. They come from all kinds of different backgrounds. And so just being able to spread information to people who might not like be getting that, like that nudge to use your downtime to help others. I feel like that's an important thing that I didn't really think about as much until now, is like using our social media outlet for that reason,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, especially with COVID, and like I feel like already, like, being in a band, you're like kind of self-employed, like you're as busy as you make yourself, like it's just like I find myself, I don't know if everybody here like would agree, but you're kind of crafting each day to be like, what can I do that is like productive and healthy and like makes me feel like I'm not wasting my time here. So I think, like, honestly, with the band voice, I was always kind of hoping, I'm a weird guy on drums, and I hope that my honesty on the kit can like bring out joy in other people. So it's like, that's why I start like playing drums, because I love it, and I think everybody else can like enjoy it. But now I'm kind of like, wow. Well, and not, but like, and on top of that, I feel like self-improvement and just like self-care right now is really important, because we could all come out of this like, you know, hopefully alive, and hopefully no one's lost any loved ones or lost their houses or anything. And if so, like, you know, we can help those folks. Just like as a society, everybody can kind of band together, but also like you gotta take care of yourself before you can start lending yourself for everybody else. You know, you want to be the best resource for other people. So and it starts for me with self-improvement. So maybe that'll come out more in the music too. Like, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Henry, because that was what I was thinking of in response to the question, was more like, well, it was a lot about just general attitude before you get on stage, or just like before we go out on tour, because we've done so much touring in the past couple years before now, where it's like we didn't have a lot of time to just think about all these things, other than like when we were on the road. It was kind of more stressful to be like, what's our purpose? What, you know, like, are we using our voices properly? And now it seems like I just imagine our general attitude being like more concrete and like firm when we go out, where we don't have to like kind of stress so much about it. We can know, you know, like, here's our album, here's like, we feel good about this, and here's like our attitude can be one of like being a helpful or just like considerate rock band. And then, you know, I think the rest can just come through our actual genuine expression and feelings about those things. But when we have that core attitude, it feels like that's really cool base, now that we've had all this time to work on ourselves, like you're saying, Henry, where we can be firm enough on ourselves to kind of be that conduit of musicness or whatever. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it is like on the road, there is a lot of like, I don't know, like you said, it's tough to balance like just living on the road, and also like every night going on stage and be like, all right, like we're putting on a good show, but we also want to make sure like everyone's safe in the crowd and like feeling included. And then like, you know, there's always going on that people need to know about and like get involved in. So like, what can I say on stage that would like bring light to that? And I know like personally, like you guys have seen, like that really takes a huge toll.
Yeah.
And, but this, like nowadays, since we don't have to like worry about that, I've found it's a lot easier, like Grant, like you're saying, to like hone in and be like, okay, like we're doing a live stream today. Like before the live stream, I can go out and look, like now there's this Navajo Hopi Solidarity Fund that's like coming up. That can be like the focus of this, like of my performance, I guess, and like bring light to that. It just feels a bit like less everything going on and more like I can do these small concrete actions.
Yeah.